Hi, we are here with Ricardo Dominguez, who is a member of Electronic Disturbance Theater 2.0, who is the group, this author of the Transborder Immigrant Tool. And that is my first question, Ricardo. What is exactly the Transborder Immigrant Tool?
Well, the Transporter Immigrant Tool that was initiated in 2007 with my collaborator, new media artist Brett Stahlbaum, was an attempt to take locative media art practices, that is GPS-based art practice, and try to reposition it on the border. The U.S.-Mexican border. I'm here in San Diego, and Tijuana is right across the way. And a lot of locative media practices up to 2007 were often urban based, which I never found very interesting. But Brett Stahlbaum and his artist partner, Paula Poole, had begun to explore a virtual hiker system that would allow them to prefabricate through an artificial intelligence system dangerous walks in the Southern California deserts. I found that quite interesting. And so in a conversation with him in 2007 at the University of California, San Diego, where we're both at, we started thinking about the issue of immigrants crossing the desert's highway, as it's called, a dangerous territory where a lot of them become lost, dehydration. We don't even know the numbers of the immigrants crossing since the United States created Operation Gatekeeper, which pushes people into dangerous desert areas. So we began to think, what if we could take this kind of question of dislocated media, that is to remove locative media art practice from the urban area to the desert, and allow people to navigate in some way more safely. And at the same time, we've always been very interested in poetry. And so what would it mean to create a different level of sustenance, not only of water, but a food for the spirit, if you will? We often think of immigrants as bare life, as these kind of zombie laborers coming from somewhere, instead of spiritual, intellectual, aesthetic beings. And so I quickly wrote the Transporter Immigrant Tool as a movement away from a global positioning system to a global poetic system. And so this would allow us to consider the border as an international and national aesthetic project that our work would function in. So that was in 2007. It was a safety tool that would allow people to cross as safely as possible. We later added finding water. We started working with NGOs and who leave water caches for immigrants, and also a poetic tool that offers aesthetic sustenance. So it's both utilitarian and poetic.
Okay, and actually, we have here in the room we have some devices so the people can see it and even use it if they want. But the idea is, I want really to talk about what happened during the process. So, how the context and the political reactions and the context in the border changed the initial idea of this project.
Well, really what began as a very well-supported project in 2007, both by my university, by the Mexican entities who funded the project. It was minimal funding. I think a total of maybe $10,000 between the university and the Mexican art communities. And so we moved forward feeling very positive about the outcome of the project, and we started working with NGOs who became very interested in the project. And then in 2010, I had received tenure for my work in hacktivism, electronic civil disobedience, the Transporter Immigrant Tool, so everything seemed quite good. And then a fashion magazine, underground fashion magazine called Vice, Vice, friends of mine from Williamsburg, Brooklyn in the 90s. They wanted to know what I was doing, and so I told them about the projects. This article became viral very quickly, and suddenly Republican congressmen started calling for investigation of the transporter immigrant tool, that it was a misuse of public money because this is a public university. Fox News, a very right-wing television network here in the United States, started calling the project that Brett Stahlbaum and now Amy Sarah Carroll, a poet, Misha Cardenas, a theorist and performance artist, and Elie Mermad, an MFA in experimental media, became under investigation as traitors to the nation, that we were going to allow Al-Qaeda and these terrorists to use these safety poetic tools. And the FBI started investigating us. Our university started to seek detenuring me. And so it very quickly became a controversy in the widest scale. And while we understood that it would have some controversial aspects, I don't think we expected it to come so soon. And in this kind of all-out attack on the project. But we did have a lot of networks who were supportive on an institutional level at the university, artist communities, activists, all really came to our support. The outcome was that the Republican Congress, the university, the FBI, and other entities who were pursuing us all lost the case against us. We were never brought to trial, and I did not lose my job. So I think that was an important element of this kind of long controversy. But between 2010 and the end of 2011, we saw the emergence of a very dangerous narco war in the north of Mexico. And we really became scared that our tool would add to that sort of danger, to an already dangerous crossing, a narco war that put a lot of pressure on immigrants and often killed them. And so we really came to think about the project as really being an intervention about the nature of the U.S. Vision and laws of undocumented immigrants into the U.S. And while we certainly expected to have a conversation about those policies, we really did not understand the growth of what the narco war in the North would mean. So the controversy, to a certain extent, allowed us as artists to speak before Congress, to speak in major newspapers on the front page, to have a lot of media, which I think was positive. But on the negative end of the controversy was that we were not able to really implement the tool in the way we had imagined in 2007. One, because of the controversy, and two, most importantly, the narco war had really come to the foreground. And the kind of gesture that we made in response to both issues was that we released the code without the water caches to the global audience in 2010 on walkingtools.net. And so that was one way in which we could imagine sharing the possibilities of the project, of the transporter immigrant tool, to think about borders all across the arcs of the world. That is, globalization is borderization. And so we can imagine perhaps activists and artists and other communities dealing with these issues, thinking perhaps along the same lines that we did. But again, it's not that we didn't expect controversy from our work. We certainly have a long history of these sorts of social controversies, but we did not expect the narco war and that element that really influenced our thinking at this point.
Okay. Thank you very much. I think that with everything, this is okay, and I think that we can start to think about the discussions here at the Room of the Controversies. And I hope to see you here too in a while in one of our open public discussions. So thank you very much to be there.
Thank you for inviting us, and my very best to everyone.
Okay, I'll see you in a while.
Adios.
Adios.